Is that what you want to start with?
Well, no, I actually wanted to start with...
Comrade William has a statement to read.
I don't want to read a statement in case it's not right.
People jump all over you.
Yeah. I was thinking about... I was thinking about something then when we were having breakfast. I was thinking that made perfect sense to me.
So this topic of this podcast is the superego injunction to enjoy.
As we understand it.
As we understand it. Which might be limited. So you just have to deal with the fact that we're not philosophy majors.
So there might be a lot of bullshit. A lot of bullshit.
Bluff our way around this.
I do remember that the lecturer in uni described the superego to everyone in the class as everyone having their own little Catholic church that lives inside of them.
Right, the place where the commandments and the guilt and the shame come from.
Yeah.
And that's the superego.
Yeah.
And the superego injunction to enjoy, as far as we can tell, comes from Mr. Slavoj Žižek as a concept. Is instead of feeling a superego injunction to suffer, because suffering is a means of building character and of being pure of spirit and of heart, we've actually come to a place where the dominant ruling ideology is that we have a superego injunction to always enjoy. This is, I presume, as part of his critique of capitalism, right?
Yeah.
Because the superego injunction to enjoy could also be said to be the superego injunction to consume, couldn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. But that's because they're selling us enjoyment, and I think it's because they're selling us enjoyment, and they're selling to us that for you to enjoy, you must consume.
So, should I play the 20-second clip of him explaining what it is?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Over to Comrade Žižek. Now he will explain.
The traditional notion of psychoanalysis is that because of some inner obstacles you internalized, identified excessively with paternal or other social prohibitions, you cannot set yourself free to enjoy. Pleasure is not accessible for you. It is accessible to you only in pathological forms of feeling guilty and so on. So then the idea is psychoanalysis allows you to suspend, overcome these internalized prohibitions so that it enables you to enjoy. The problem today is that the commandment of the ruling ideology is enjoy in different ways. It can be sexual enjoyment, consumption, commodity enjoyment, up to spiritual enjoyment, realize yourself, whatever. And I think that the problem today is not how to get rid of your inhibitions and to be able to spontaneously enjoy. The problem is how to get rid of this injunction to enjoy.
So back in the day, it would have been the case that if people were having a good time and enjoying pleasure and having that enjoyment, they would feel guilty. Now what we're left with is the problem of if we're not enjoying everything all the time, we feel guilty.
As I understand it, yeah. I mean, I think this is a really good topic to really pontificate about, and that's why I quite enjoy it. And I do enjoy the fact that I think I can see a lot of, especially now, I can see it happening a lot in society. I mean, if you speak to the generation, I think below us, the 20-year-olds, I mean, one 20-year-old we know got out of the taxi and said, I genuinely feel stressed and feel guilty if I'm not updating my Instagram and Facebook.
Well, he didn't just say that he feels stressed and guilty if he's not updating his Instagram and Facebook. He went further than that. He said, if I'm not updating it with updates that make it look like I'm living an amazing life all the time, I feel bad about that, he said. That's really scary.
It's stressful. It made me feel stressed for
him. I feel stressed on his behalf. Have you noticed any of the superego injunction to enjoy in yourself?
No, but I do think that's part of my being too lazy to go and do anything. I mean, I think one of the things one of my friends said to me, you always kind of liked the idea of being a mosher, Will. I was like, yeah, I did, because I liked the music and stuff, but you were too lazy to have to go into Liverpool and buy the clothes. Because you would have had to do something. You
would have had to actually made an effort and dress up.
Yeah.
I've noticed in myself there is a superego injunction to enjoy, but it's usually focused around sex. So I'll notice that I feel guilty if I'm not trying to have sex even if at that moment in time I'm not really interested in it.
Because you think you should be having sex.
Because I think there's a superego injunction that says you should be fucking as many people as you possibly can. Even though rationally I'll go like, I couldn't possibly do that. I'm going to get AIDS and my willy will rot off. I still have this. There's one area of my life where I really strongly feel like this compulsive thing. So I could be quite happily just like last night, just sat in, just reading a book, doing nothing.
Yeah.
And this little voice will be in my head going, "You should be trying to have sex with something or someone." And I'm like, that's not reasonable. Can I not just sit here and read my fucking book, please?
Just enjoy the small pleasure.
Yeah. Just enjoy that. So I've seen it in myself, but it's not to the extent that we see with the generation below us, where they feel compelled, absolutely compelled, to be on social media and to be portraying a life that has become the baseline normalization for that life that they're portraying simply cannot exist. We cannot all be celebrities. If we're all celebrities, then none of us are fucking celebrities.
Oh yeah, I mean, we were talking the other day. I can't remember who tweeted it, but I thought it was hilarious. Someone tweeted that society in England today, I think there's 90,000 applicants to Love Island, 12,000 applicants to Oxbridge.
Yeah. I think that's why zombie movies have become popular in the last few years. I really do. Zombie games, zombie movies, and TV shows about zombies is because I think it's the unconscious, the group unconscious is acknowledging we're about to be taken over. We're about to cannibalize. So the zombie is this unconscious, singularly driven id force that will cannibalize the humans. So the lowest part, the superegos effectively, so the lowest part of human nature is going to outbreed and then cannibalize the higher parts of human nature. It's like devolution in action. It's the opposite of evolution.
Yeah. I mean, it must be sad to feel that you've got to not just be enjoying life, you've got to prove that you're enjoying life as well.
Okay, and then the question automatically becomes, to whom?
Yeah.
Then we have to pontificate on something that neither of us really know that much about, which is the big other.
Yeah, it does kind of baffle me, the big other. Because if there is a big other, we're saying that there are some subconscious social controls in place.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the big other. Big other is the authority that is watching you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's just generally people watching you? Is that just called the other?
I don't know. Are you talking? Are we talking some like everyone's reading? Are we talking like GCHQ sort of stuff? Is that what you're getting at?
No. I'm not talking conspiracy theory here. Yeah. Last podcast we did, we were talking about concepts of time and language and stuff, and what happens when you take psychedelics.
Yeah.
One of the useful revelations that I got from taking acid when I was a teenager was I was coming down off the trip, and you get like little mini. It's probably that's where you get more of your enlightening thoughts is as you're coming down from it, because you're not so like anxious and confused by the hallucinations. Was nobody is watching me. So I was 18 years old, and I remember I was at Aston University, and I'm in this horrible tower block where they shoved all the first year students. And my girlfriend's apartment, I'm using her bathroom, her toilet, and I was suddenly just like, nobody's watching me. Nobody is actually watching me. And I realized at that moment that up until then, from wherever I became conscious to that moment at age 18, I had actually had the feeling like somebody's watching me. Like I was in a film starring me. There was this narcissistic sort of self-concept that I had where I was in a film that was starring me and that I was being watched. And then I went, no, there is no film and nobody is watching you. Nobody is here. So that's the other I'm talking about, because I get the feeling with these kids that let's just call it the audience then. We'll just say the audience.
Yeah, I like that.
We'll just call it the audience. So the audience claps for you with likes, they clap for you with follows, and everything is done for the audience.
Yeah.
But the rational mind doesn't stretch to, well, the audience can only be created of individual pixels who are people just like me. That's where I got to with acid. I was like, who's the audience? It's you dickhead. It's idiots like you. And I'm like, idiots like me? Is there nothing else? And my high brain went, no, there's nothing else. It's just maggots watching maggots being maggots.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, that's kind of really depressing and frightening, but also quite liberating.
Yeah, really liberating, I suppose.
Nobody's watching, and anybody who is watching, their fucking dumb opinion doesn't fucking matter anyway.
And have they bothered?
Are they even bothered? So that's a good question, because then you get to the point of this is how ridiculous an echo chamber the virtual world is becoming, where even when I applaud for you and giving you likes and giving you my follow, I'm only doing it so that you applaud for me, so that you give me a like and so you give me a follow.
Right, okay.
So I'm told that as an online businessman, I have to go to Instagram. I'm told that is good online business practice. So I say, okay, fine. How do I get more follows and more of an audience? And they say, you can pay a bot or you can pay a human to help you. So I've paid a human to help me get more follows and more likes so that I can sell more products and run more of my business, because capitalism, bro. And I'm not ashamed of that. And what's this guy doing? Well, their strategy to get you likes and followers is to just follow and like people.
Simple.
But really dumb. Really fucking dumb. You're going to go and look at my Instagram and see 12,000 followers or wherever it's up to by the time people are listening to this. And a good proportion of that is only going to be people who've followed me because somebody who I paid liked their picture. It's a like for like. It's okay. Like for like and follow for follow is our culture now.
Yep.
And that is a circle jerk. That is 6 people in a circle wanking each other off into a cup, and whoever comes last has to drink it. That is vile. Why did I say that? It's a Sunday morning. Sorry, well, I think I've had too much coffee. I'm going into rant mode. Angry Richie came out. Let's put him back in his box.
I do feel sorry for that generation. If we're going to talk about a superego injunction to joy, and we are obviously saying we're not totally sure we understand it, but it is nice to pontificate about that the what they, when I say the big other, has delved so deep into our unconscious or our subconscious that we have to enjoy, and we feel pressure to enjoy rather than feeling guilty for breaking the law or for or acting out a taboo. So the taboo now is almost to be conservative. And I'm not talking politically conservative. I'm talking about, going towards a religion, going towards old gender norms, almost not. We've almost gone so far that we're starting to regress again. But I don't think that's necessarily us that's done it to us. It's someone very intelligent in some captain, some big company has gone, ooh, I know how we're going to sell some stuff to them.
I remember what the Greek guy's name is. It's Milo.
Right.
Milo, the naughty troll rebel of the right. He said that being the younger generation is steering to the right, steering hard to the right, because that is the new rebellion. The new rebellion is to be conservative. The new rebellion is to have the old traditional values and the old ways of doing things, because it kind of makes sense. Like if you have liberal values shoved down your throat, then you're going to want to pull away from that. So that's why we're seeing some people marrying younger, sticking in long-term relationships and generally being good. Are there any other reasons why they're doing that though?
I'm not sure.
Well, we did mention the impact of social media, didn't we? And the fact that the younger generation, like 20-year-olds today, feel very observed, because any naughty thing that they do could end up on social media for all to see, because their friends all have cameras in their pockets.
Yeah.
Maybe that is also driving an urge towards, well, I just want to feel safe.
Yeah.
And safety and security could come from being inside of a marriage.
Yeah.
However, is there any safety and security there? You were going to mention how the superego injunction to enjoy has an impact on marriage, weren't you?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, this is just me observing in relationships as well, is that I think people do generally feel pressure to enjoy, and they feel a pressure to prove they're enjoying, and they feel guilty if they're not enjoying. So again, and I think it's probably more my generation and your generation, because the taboo for us, I suppose, still isn't to revert. But in relationships, you must see it when you're counselling people, that people leave other people because they're not having enough fun or not enjoying enough.
Yeah, I'm not sure how new that is, but I'm certainly seeing plenty of it. Like that, yes, there would the superego injunction to enjoy is going to create antagonism and pressure inside of a marriage. My philosophy though for dealing with that, like I'm quite old and I'm not married, and if anybody could survive being single, it's probably me. Not, in all honesty, not many people can.
No,
it's not for most people.
No.
I probably could do it, but marriage is still an option for me. I still sort of entertain it, and I think that the only way around it is you have to directly address the issue of the superego injunction to enjoy with whoever you're getting married with. Right. Okay. You wouldn't use those words.
No.
But you've got to talk about, like in economics, they talk about opportunity cost. What's the it's you want to get married, you've sold yourself on the idea of marrying me for whatever reason, you've decided I'm the person that you want to be stuck with for the rest of your life. But what's the opportunity cost? Like, what do you not get? And whatever you're sacrificing, whatever the opportunity cost is, we need to address that within the relationship, because if we don't, over the years, you're going to feel a general sense of malaise and resentment towards me because you've given something up, even if it's only a fantasy.
So, I mean, I can see definitely people looking in the relationship, going back saying, am I enjoying enough? Am I proving that I'm enjoying enough? Is it so stressful just to actually feel enjoyment but not prove it? Which,
yes, if you're feeling it but not proving it, does it even exist?
That's where I'm getting to when I'm looking at it.
So there is a sort of a meme-ish phrase on the internet, or there was a few years ago, pictures or it didn't happen. So somebody would come on a forum and say, I did this, I did that, and I blah, 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 and people would just go, show us a video or else it didn't happen. Right? So have we internalized that to the point where we're going, if I just go and have an amazing time taking a holiday in Bali or something, am I going to come back, or am I even going to be stressed and depressed and anxious while I'm there if I'm not taking pictures of it and shoving those pictures in my friends' faces going, look at where I am, I'm in Bali, blah, blah. Maybe.
See, what I always think as well is that, I mean, 20 years ago, I remember it now, people used to be, I think The Simpsons did it as well, but it used to be the worst thing in the world when someone would come back from a holiday and want to show you their pictures.
I don't know what, I remember as a kid going, what is this weird adult ritual that nobody is enjoying except the person whose finger is on the button? Who did it to me recently? Oh God, I've got a string of a memory. Somebody actually took me through, and I'll remember who did it to me in the last year. Oh, I do remember. Oh my God. And it was me and my ex-girlfriend. We were still together, and we sat on a couch, and we were taken through a Facebook album of pictures, and we both had the same thought at the same time, which is there are 595 photos in this album. We're on photo number 7. And we were taken through the whole fucking album. Not in English, by the way.
Yeah.
So the lady who was showing it was clearly like, and here we are by a road. And here we are by the sea. And here there's a bird on a telegraph pole. And I'm like, it's not even a fucking good picture of a bird on a telegraph pole. It's blurry and it's fucked up and it's boring. But it's because the country that we were in is a little bit back. It's been held back economically and culturally. Yeah. So people are still doing the shit that they would have done in the 80s. But yeah, I was actually made to do that. And I was ready to confess by the end of it. I don't even know what to. You know, I was like, whatever you want me to say, just please fucking stop. So yeah, I hear you. Like this photo thing, it's cruel. It's cruel and unusual, but we like it. We like it. Like, we complain about Facebook, we complain about Instagram, we complain about social media, but it is clearly providing something.
Yeah.
I deliberately unsubscribed from George Takei yesterday. I told you, like, I think on one of the other podcasts we were talking about it, like, I'm spending too much time reading people's comments on stupid stories.
Yeah.
So you have a blatant clickbait story, a blatant argument provoker, and the only purpose of that story is to get people having really long threads of rage in the argument section, because all we're doing now is, or all Facebook and social media is doing, is harvesting people's time and attention. So if you want to have a really strong Facebook following, you should post graphic, annoying, upsetting videos and graphic, annoying and upsetting stories. Transgender man uses sex op to gain access to children's bathroom and commits rape of 20 Muslim communist, I don't know, Muslim communist transgender man rapes, something that's going to make people go berserk, because that's, you're laughing, but every time I go online I'm like, why is everybody so upset about transgender? Because transgender means men in children's bathrooms. And I'm going, I'm not sure that's... I mean, it's part of like what you need to discuss, like how you're going to figure that one out. But I don't think that's the main thing you should be focused on. So there is a lot of just deliberately annoying people. But I unfollowed him. So I tell you why I unfollowed him.
Who is it again? Sorry,
George Takei.
Who's George Takei?
He was in Star Trek. He's a Japanese American. And he played... I can't remember his name. I think it's called Sulu in Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. And he has this huge Facebook following.
Is he? All right, cool.
And I don't actually know how I ended up following him, but he must have posted something funny and I followed it. And then I started following him. But I noticed that I was spending an awful lot of time on Facebook looking through the comments. But I don't know why I was doing that.
Was it making you angry?
Yeah, it makes me annoyed. I'm just sat there going, all I'm doing is being irritated that people say such stupid, baseless things to each other. And I don't mind what side of an argument people are on, but the fact that they don't even know how to argue sends me into a frothing frenzy. Like, a debate is not, I shout what I think, and then you shout it back with swear words, and then I shout it back at you with more swear words and an ad hominem about how you wouldn't know what you're talking about because blah, 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 blah. Well, that's not debating. Anyway, we're getting off topic here. The harvesting of people's time and attention is a big part of that. But yeah, we're complaining about social media even as we use it, and even as like this podcast will be released via social media.
Yeah, I don't think I'm complaining about it. I think what I'm getting at more is that I couldn't fathom, my puny brain don't think could take the stress of having to update something every day and work and have a marriage and have a house that I pay a mortgage on, and
it's time consuming. It's really, really time consuming. I mean, I stopped, not deliberately. It wasn't like, oh, I'm leaving social media now. I just stopped using it, and stopped, for about a year. And then I was like, okay, I have my personal problems, blah, blah. Most of them resolved now. It's time to get back to work. And it's like, well, I work online. What am I supposed to do? Well, I'm supposed to do this. Okay, that means that you've got to do the whole Instagram and Facebook and YouTube thing. It's incredibly time consuming and incredibly addictive.
Yeah.
So I go from, well, what kinds of pictures and posts are people sharing on Instagram? What's hot now? What's funny now? Trying to get my finger on the pulse of where people are up to. So I'll spend an hour on Instagram looking at stuff. And then before I know it, I'm just pulling my phone out and just looking on Instagram. And I'm like, hang on a sec, what's this? Is this market research? No, I'm just scrolling for memes, man. Maybe I'll see something funny, or I don't know, like a donkey playing the flute or whatever. I don't even know. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Just put it the fuck down and look at the sky or something. Consider your own mortality.
we were talking about something before, and to be fair, I think you had quite a good point, sort of psychologically.
What do you mean, to be fair? I think you had quite a good point.
Because I wasn't sure I was following it. But
nothing but pearls of wisdom spew forth from my gob.
I think it was quite interesting. But I said, but I'd seen a picture of, I think it's like 20 girls on a coach, and they're all going. I think the tagline of it, we're all going on holiday. And in the picture, they're all heads down, staring at their phones with speech bubbles coming from their phones, having the maddest time, having the most bonkers time.
Yeah.
And they're all liking each other's each other's tweets.
We're mad, aren't
Facebook.
we? We're crazy. We're all with our faces in the phones, not talking to each other or doing nothing at all. But as long as we can convince the world that we are, then serotonin will be released, then endorphins will be released, and then I can enjoy it. But if nobody knows, this is my pet theory. I think that actually the example of somebody going to Bali and not being able to shove it in people's faces, I think that they would actually have a less good time. They can't just be alone, or not even alone. They can't just be with their partner. There's actually a particular girl I'm thinking of, and she did actually go to Bali. I hope she doesn't listen to this and figure it out. And she kept on taking selfies and videos of her and her boyfriend in Bali, and you should see the boyfriend's face. Like she pulls the phone out, it's like, so we're by the pool, we just had a few cocktails, haven't we, Malcolm? A made up name. And he's like looking at her. You know when somebody just barely opens their eyes and they just slide their eyeballs to the left, and they just look at the camera like, leave me the fuck alone. I am on holiday. Shut your face. But she couldn't stop. Like, there's an anxiety there. There's some kind of neurotic drive there. So my thesis is society is becoming more schizophrenic, narcissistic, and psychopathic all at the same time. And that what the schizophrenia, the dissociative identity disorder is, we are now all aware and yet not aware that our real self and our online self are two separate entities. And there is no longer an expectation that your online self be an accurate reflection of your offline self.
Yeah, and I think what was really interesting, which I hadn't thought about, is that we're all taking part in the lie as well.
Yes. Like, I know you very well. I know that you're not doing this and that and the other thing. Now, there was a movement, and I'm going back 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, it's sad that we can plot our own history with Facebook. You know, I think I went on in 2009, so been on for 8 years now. But back in 2012, 2013, there were a series of videos that came out that went viral on Facebook that were mocking people for lying about what they were doing with their lives.
Right.
Did you ever see it? It was like a video of a guy who he drives up a hill and then throws water on himself to look like he's been sweating, and then selfies at the top of the hill and goes, I'm just on my morning run, like on a Sunday morning.
God, that poor guy must be under so much stress.
Well, it was a parody. I mean, he was taking the piss out of people who were faking their online life. But that wouldn't. My point is, like, we used to satirize that, but now we do not, because there is no shame about faking your online life.
Because everyone knows everyone else is lying.
Everybody knows everybody else is lying, exactly. So that's hyper-normalization. So it's just this weird game that we've all quietly and unconsciously consented to, where, yeah, we all know it's bullshit. Like, I know that you're a mechanic in Neston. You know, what the fuck? What is this shit on your profile? You're not a celebrity. You're not. Stop it. You've never been anywhere. You've never done anything. Just be normal. What's wrong with normal? But normal's not good enough now.
It doesn't fulfill. If we're going to say there is a superego injunction to enjoy, it's not fulfilling us, is it? What's fulfilling us is enjoyment. We're told what enjoyment is, so we must enjoy. And I think, to be fair, it goes along with the whole torture porn thing. You get extremer and extremer, don't you?
Yeah. I noticed that they haven't made any torture porn film for a couple of years now.
Because what was the last one? Was it the Tarantino one?
Tarantino's never made a torture porn film.
He did. He made that film where they all go to that. They end up in a hotel in Slovenia.
Hostel's not Tarantino.
Oh, it's not.
It's so annoying the way they do this. What they do is on the posters they'll say he wasn't even a producer on it. What was Tarantino to that film? I can't remember. He said something about the film, but it was presented as it wasn't his film. He's not. I don't maybe his production company maybe put some money in it, but it's not a Tarantino movie. I mean, he wouldn't make a film like that. The main character who was in it was then one of the main characters in Inglourious Bastards, and I know that they have a relationship, but no, it's not. I don't think. I know that Tarantino wouldn't debase himself. He might do a send up of the torture porn genre, with like a funny twist.
Yeah.
But he's too narcissistic. I mean, he's openly narcissistic. He's like, I want to be. I read a quote from him the other day. I like him as a personality. He said, not only do I want to be remembered as the greatest filmmaker that ever lived, I want to be remembered as one of the greatest artists that ever lived. I want my films to be remembered as art, because he's only doing 2 more.
Is he?
He's doing 2 more, and then he's capping it, and that's it. But yeah, I mean, as an aside, I do think the films, they have gone down in quality since Reservoir Dogs. It's a bit bloated. A lot of the films are a little bit bloated now.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm a bit of a fanboy, I suppose. So I think Inglourious Bastards is absolutely brilliant.
I thought it was brilliant when I first watched it. I watched it again and I was like, some of this is pretentious drivel. It's pretentious drivel. Like, Tarantino has a fetish for language and for how people express themselves, and it's a bit drivelly in points. It could do with, there are scenes that just need cutting. He's also got a major hard on for what's his name, the German actor.
I know who you mean.
Who plays Lander, plays Colonel Lander, the Jew hunter, and watch it again. Watch it again. I like, at the time, with the rest of the stuff that was on at the cinema, fucking hell, it blew everything else away because it's so fresh and so original, and it's like in the way that he does things, and he really just, I think he just makes films for himself. He's just like, this is the film that I would want to see, and this is what I'm going to make, and it works. But yeah. Django as well has little bits in it that I'm like, oh, it's just... Well, he himself turns up in Django with a really shit Australian accent.
I just thought he was taking the piss. I just thought it was really funny.
Yeah, I'm not down for people just taking the piss when it's a film. No, we're going to have a little song and dance routine. Are you? I can do an Australian accent, so I'm going to write myself into the film. Are you? How many endings does Django have? Because I counted about 3. And it was clear that somebody went, I've got an idea. Why doesn't Django like ride to this place and do this thing? Okay, we're going to make that. Let's shoot it. Yeah, no, it's a bit bloated. But anyway, getting off topic somewhat. So the schizophrenia, the dissociative identity disorder, is that the gap between the online persona and the real persona is widening. And we all consent to that, and we all agree with that. And we reward each other for it, and we would no longer shame somebody for not looking like or acting like how they do online. The narcissism is self-explanatory. You're doing everything for likes and for follows, which is the equivalent of narcissistic supply. The psychopathy is, I think, the result, like I would say it's the result of the disconnect between fantasy and reality. Like, the psychopathic mindset, which is devoid of empathy and devoid of compassion, becomes devoid of empathy and compassion when it can only view people as things. So if I'm the center of this story and this movie is all about me, and you're just the audience, you're not an individual like me, I can't really have proper empathy and compassion for you. Nor can I have shame, nor can I have guilt.
You just lost me about halfway through. Mm-hmm. I was sort of half following, and then the coffee went... Bleh.
Now I will take over your brain. Blah, 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 blah.
There is definitely a psychopathy, but I can't help but feel sorry for that generation, or from what I see from that generation. I mean, I
feel sorry for them, but they will grow up psychopathic.
Okay.
Psychopathy is basically a personality, is like a way of pathologizing criminality. Criminality is the breaking of laws. Criminality is the transgression of boundaries. Well, I mean, I don't know whether you would call it like soft psychopathy, but if you're raised in an environment where crushing boundaries or not having boundaries is good, you de facto become psychopathic.
No, but I thought that's what we were saying. We were saying that because society now is geared around being permissive and to enjoy your permissive.
Yeah.
But what we're saying now is that because there's a superego injunction, is that the only way to have I think what we said before, a libidinal enjoyment, libidinal enjoyment, or to perform some type of taboo, is to revert and get married at 20 and live in a marriage for 40 years and completely obey the law.
You keep saying perform a taboo, but really it's rebel. I think.
Yeah, rebel. Sorry. Rebel, yeah. Because
performing a taboo could be all kinds of things. But the rebellion is the conservatism is to have a traditional gendered marriage and carry yourself in a conservative way.
Yeah, but what we're also saying as well, that it's creating a psychopathy that you're going to push that boundary too far.
The psychopathy is that you don't have any respect for other people's boundaries. The psychopathy is that you don't have any other respect for people as people because they're no longer human in the way that you perceive yourself to be human. You're aware of your own fragility and needs and wants and strengths and weaknesses and vulnerabilities, but you don't permit that in others. And I think that's why we're seeing so if you imagine that the cyber world is a real estate, then what we're seeing is a very savage land grab. Like, take as much of it as you can, just get in there and without any sort of sense of for what. Like, what's it for me? Why? So that people will like me. What does that do? Because it makes me feel good. Why does it make you feel good? Because I don't know who I am if I don't have an audience. And if that's really what's happening, then we need we would do well as a society to address that and be like, well, why do people feel so lonely and so unseen that it's easy to drive them maniacally into jumping online and doing anything they can to get attention, anything they can to get likes and to get follows, to the point where people are literally killing themselves for likes.
Yeah, but I've seen the other side of it as well, is that I can see that a younger generation, or it's not just saying younger generation, people living now are almost afraid to do something that's not normal, because the second anyone does something that isn't normal, or maybe normal is the wrong word, or isn't doing something that's just conforming, everyone in the world gets a video phone out and tapes it and puts it online.
Well,
so you've got those two different types of people who are very, very, very stressed about there being anything out there about them that presents them not acting in a cultural norm. Well, and then you've got the other people who will do anything just to feel that.
There's more than two types of people. Well, yeah. But if we wanted to paint with broad brushstrokes and shoehorn a bit of psychology in there, you could say you have the extroverts and the introverts, or people who are anally retentive and people who are anally expulsive. So the expulsives would be just attention for its own sake at all costs with no shame. The retentives would be, I want attention because I need it, but I want it through a very narrow sort of passageway and only in a way that I can control. But I still want it. I still need it, but I have to control it.
See, if we're going to say they think they're in control of what they're enjoying, they're being told to enjoy constantly. We're all being told to enjoy constantly, but we're being told to control the enjoyment as well.
Yes, this is a Zizekian idea, right?
I don't know.
Was that not where you're going with that?
No,
the Zizekian idea is we want coffee without caffeine, beer without alcohol, and so on. You want to smoke, but you take out the nicotine and the things that can give you cancer. Enjoy, but not too much. Enjoy, but don't go too far. Enjoy, but don't become lost in your enjoyment. and that's the he calls that Western Buddhism.
I love that.
He's absolutely fucking spot on. It's this bullshit fake Buddhism. I mean, anytime somebody from the West tells you they're a Buddhist, you should just smack them in the face with a kippah. But it's pure Western Buddhism. It's enjoy but not too much. Smoke your cigarette but don't get cancer. You know. And his whole approach to it is very, very Balkan, which would be like, just fucking get on with it, do it. You know, love, fuck, die in the process, tumble screaming into the abyss, firing every weapon at once. But I lived fully. Fuck you, plastic penis, whatever you want. Which is right. You know, the Southern European way might have some validity to it, which is at least you've lived. Whereas a lot of these people are not really living. They're in the half light.
So, what are you proposing now that someone's online self is more important to them than their actual self? But is there an actual self anymore?
I think,
or are they actually portraying who they are? Are they not portraying who they are?
Well, my main job really is like, I'm a life coach, I'm a counsellor, so my job is to make people feel better and help them to heal and to sort of pull them out of whatever chaotic state they're in. I'm not really a philosopher, but were I a philosopher, I would be most interested in exploring the idea that I originally got from Zizek, that the virtual world is now developing, like he calls it, the reality of the virtual. And I sort of thought about that for a bit, and I was like, actually, if you think about it, the virtual world has its own reality. And instead of the virtual world being about the real world, now the real world is becoming about the virtual world, and the virtual world is growing in its own gravity. So how is it growing in its own gravity? You're a 20-year-old, let's imagine, you're a much younger man. Would you forego a relationship? So you're full of hormones, you're really, really horny. Are you going to forego a relationship with a 20-year-old girl who's really hot, who you really like, okay, so scenario one, you get the girl, she's really hot, you really, really like her, you can have your relationship with her, but nobody knows. Or scenario B, you never actually get the girl, but you get the photos, you get the videos, and everybody thinks you've got that girl. Which scenario would you prefer, A or B?
You can have A, aren't you? Straight away. It's not even like a...
I think I've just created a valid thought experiment, and I might go to the University of Liverpool with a clipboard and actually ask some kids this. We should film that.
Yeah, it'd be funny.
Should go around and be like, here's scenario A, here's scenario B. And I think most people would say scenario A,
yeah,
because they don't want to look crazy.
Yeah.
So what we will do is you'll point the camera at their face right when I say, would you prefer scenario A or scenario B? And we'll see the hesitation. They will hesitate. Some people actually will hesitate and be like, do I really want to have the first person enjoyment of the thing? The thing. It's a woman, you misogynist. Jesus. Okay, let's turn this on its head. You're a woman. It's a really hot guy. Whoever's really hot right now. For the kids. Who's hot? Who's a hot? If you're a 20-year-old girl, who's your hottest?
I'm trying to think who's famous now.
Justin Bieber? Or am I about 4 years out of date?
No, I think I don't know. I'm trying to, because straight away when you think like guys from our generation, you just go Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp. That's all that comes into my head.
It dates you so quickly.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, like these are old dudes.
Yeah.
I remember there was a quote from. Well, I used to want to join the army, and I wanted to be in an infantry regiment, and I was going to join as an officer. So I went around different regiments. They sort of introduce you to the regimental values. You hang out with the officers. You have a drink with them. You have some food with them. You go train with them, and. All of the officers had this saying, or they seemed to, the regiments I went to in the British Army, that like soldiers, they said that if you're going to be an officer of infantrymen, you need to understand soldiers' favourite pastime is fucking whinging. They'll whinge about everything. No matter what you give them, they're going to whinge about it. If you give them Cindy Crawford, they're going to ask you, where's Claudia Schiffer? And I told this story to somebody about 2 years ago, and I'm like, Cindy Crawford and Claudia Schiffer, I just dated myself. Like, they looked at me like, the person I was talking to was younger than me. They were like, I kind of know who you're talking about.
Not sure.
If you offer them Betty Davis, they're going to want Audrey Hepburn. Do you know what I'm saying? Know what I mean? That Betty Davis, Whoa, she's a hot tamale.
All I can think about is that cartoon, now, with that wolf.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
spanking, he's hammering, he's hammering the
table.
hammering the table, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so 20-year-old girl and whoever the 20-year-old pinup guy is, she can either, I'm going to say Justin Bieber, but who cares? She can either be with him for reals, but nobody's going to know. I should probably figure this out. If we ever do the experiment, I should figure this out.
We should do the experiment.
So you can either have Justin Bieber really, and nobody knows, or you can have the thing, which is the Bieber experience, become a believer, but nobody knows. So you get that puppy-faced, tattooed guy. You may molest him, whatever you want, sexual fantasies, bizarre notions, and enjoy it. But it's on a desert island and nobody's ever going to know.
But
I actually think a lot of these kids would say, no, I want the thing where everybody knows.
No, the thing where everyone knows me, it just sounds like so much effort.
Okay, so I have two. Okay.
I'd be more interested in option B if I didn't have to do a load of shit as well. So it's like for option B to work,
yeah,
you've got to be like,
no, we do it for you.
Taking pictures.
If
you do it for me, then option B sounds a little bit more.
It's all done
viable.
for you.
Yeah,
it's like an online service that me and my crew provide you, and you either get to just have the thing but nobody knows, or you get to not have the thing but everybody thinks you did have the thing.
Right. Okay.
And it doesn't have to be sex. It doesn't have to be sex. It could be a Ferrari. It could be an amazing holiday. It could be something that people would brag about that they feel would raise their social status. And you can either authentically enjoy it for yourself or not. And my theory on the fly that I've just made up right now is that means that we have, what do you call the part of yourself that... I'm really high on caffeine. Jesus help me. My face is tingling. What do you call... Listen, Will. What do you call that part of yourself that enjoys? Your enjoyment chamber.
The chamber.
The chamber.
With all the chains.
The pleasure chamber, William. Your pain is my pleasure. Whatever that is, that part of yourself that can enjoy the enjoyment circuit, what will happen, I claim, whatever you want, is there's going to be two. You're going to have a real one, which is you, and a virtual one. So you're going to have my actual capacity to first person enjoy pleasure, and because I'm going mentally ill through cultural conditioning, I'm developing dissociative identity disorder. I have another personality who I never embody, and he has his own enjoyment chamber that experiences pleasure, and I vicariously experience pleasure through observing him. Are you still with me, or have you zoned out? That made sense to me.
I mean, to really dumb it down, are you saying you as a person, you're playing Xbox and you're playing FIFA on your Xbox,
yeah,
and you're the one playing FIFA on your Xbox, yeah, but there's someone sat on the couch next to you watching you play, and they're having more enjoyment. They're having more enjoyment
level
than you.
To it now.
They're having more enjoyment than you are playing it.
Well, they're getting a different kind of enjoyment. It's sort of like the enjoyment of a peeping Tom, but who am I peeping on? Me. I'm vicariously enjoying something that I am alleging I'm enjoying. That's a really tortured sentence. I'm peeping on myself, enjoying something that I have never enjoyed.
Oh, okay. So
I'm getting a buzz off the fact of the idea of me doing something that never happened, yeah. And the fact that other people are jealous of that, because the fuel of Facebook and Instagram is jealousy.
But I see. This is what I thought. I mean, Instagram, I don't know, but I thought.
You should get on it. It's just pictures of people's bottoms.
Is it?
Yeah,
that sounds excellent.
All photoshopped. Everybody's got a great ass on Instagram. Even me, I put up like 5 belfies the other day. Go on,
just randomly.
I just want to show my ass.
What, next to TVs and fires and
next
stuff?
Next to TVs
garden,
and fires in the garden.
Beach.
And I just put #gains. Hashtag every day a little bit better. Hashtag glutes. Hashtag hamstrings. Hashtag squats. Go on, sorry. What were you going to ask me?
I've forgotten.
There's a really... I was watching an interview with a bodybuilder about something or other. And he's kind of like this older bodybuilder. I say older, he's probably younger than me. And they were saying to him, this guy was like, "Oh, I bet you get loads of goals." And this bodybuilder was like, yeah, I get goals. But if I want to see them naked, I don't need to take them out. I just find out what their Instagram account is. Now I have a valid point behind that. That's a slightly, the valid point that I have behind that is that Instagram and social media and Facebook, it does fuck with time. It fucks with time and it fucks with procedure. So a guy normally would like a goal, and we're cisgendered, traditional in this description. He pursues that goal over time. He charms her. He seduces her with songs that he wrote. He plays a beautiful ballad on the lute for her. Writes a poem.
Gives her flowers.
That kind of thing. And then eventually he consummates his desires with her. Now what we have is kind of like a reverse of that, where you go straight to the naked part and straight to the observation part. And it's actually killing intimacy. It's actually killing the vulnerability and it's killing the intimacy. This is a separate subject for a separate day. But I did want to make this point on this podcast. Similarly, so the timelines get messed up. Like, you don't actually go through a regulated timeline with people. Now on Facebook, we actually have something called a timeline, which I think has really corrupted people's capacity to enjoy and really corrupted people's self-concept. I'll give you the example where this came from. I'm driving along, I'm listening to Radio 1. It's the beginning of the summer. Radio 1, if you don't know, is the main sort of pop radio station in the UK, right? Is that fair? Yeah, okay. Main pop radio station in the UK. In America, they probably have it state by state. So whatever it would be for your state.
I don't really understand how it works in America, if I'm honest.
And it's all about festivals. And so people are writing in, or they're tweeting or whatever it is that they're doing, and they're talking about what festival they're going to and what they're doing that weekend. Somebody tweets the DJ and the DJ goes, shout out to Malcolm, who's on his way down to Cornwall with his family. And Malcolm has said, "We're off to Cornwall. We're really looking forward to this weekend and to building some new memories." Now, I was driving when I heard that phrase, "We're looking forward to building some new memories," and I nearly fucking crashed the car. I went through frustration, exasperation, rage, back to frustration, and then into a deep sadness.
What was the rage like?
The rage is my normal, so it's just like, "Good morning, I'm full of rage." No, and I was like, there's something really, really fucked up with this. But my exasperation and frustration was I couldn't verbalize it. I knew that something had just happened that was so wrong, but I couldn't put words to it. And so I was just like, no, stop it. And then it took months. It took months and months and months for me to realize. And I realized over time, the offense was the idea that before you have even done a thing now, you're already futurescaping what your Facebook photos and videos will look like after it's been done. So you don't even get to enjoy the thing because half of your fucking consciousness is floating forward in time on your timeline to looking back on the memory and liking the fucking thing. That's the reality of the virtual, I claim.
Well, I mean, it sort of begs the question, I suppose. I can't believe I just said that. It begs the question.
Oh, it rather begs the question.
Fucking hell.
You may ask me the question.
Oh, God. Is the worst insult you can give someone now saying they're boring?
Yes. Yeah, it is. That they're not worthy of likes, that they're not worthy of being followed, that they're not worthy of that attention. It is pretty insulting. And, you know, one of the other things that I wanted to bring up in this was the story that I told you earlier. My ex-girlfriend trying to explain to me how a girl whose boyfriend says to her, "Hey, baby, I really love you with no makeup on." But I think I said it to her. I think that's what started this whole conversation. Because I do. I like girls with no makeup on, no fancy stuff, just maybe my t-shirt and just some underwear.
Yeah.
I'm getting excited now.
Oh yeah.
No.
You're getting back to that. Why am I doing the podcast? I should be having sex.
Yeah. What am I doing? I should be having sex right now. And I said to her, that's what I like. And she just said to me, well, do you know that that's insulting to some girls? And I was like, how the fuck could it be insulting that I'm saying I prefer you in your natural state when you've just woken up than at any other time? And she was like, well, because so many of these girls now are putting so much effort into their makeup and into contouring. Do you know what contouring is?
No.
Contouring is a makeup technique whereby you actually draw a different face onto your face. So you can say if I wanted a stronger jawline,
yeah,
or I wanted to make myself not look like I have a bit of a double chin,
yeah,
you can actually, there are makeup techniques that let you do that. That can thin the face, that can elongate it, they can change the shape of the nose. It's basically with really effective painting techniques. You look suddenly very tired and exasperated.
It's just like, it makes me feel a little bit sad, but again, I constantly, it always runs through me. Anyone says anything like this to me, I'm constantly thinking, God, it just must take so much effort to go.
Oh, it's huge. Well, some of the biggest YouTube channels out there with the most followers are makeup channels. They're just how to make yourself not look like how you actually fucking look. 5 million subscribers. How to make your face a different shape than what it is. I mean, do people watch this and weep? I need to learn how to give myself a different face because this one is ruined. I mean, could you imagine it sitting there for an hour? So then you watch the video, you learn the technique and contouring. I've seen it being done. It's amazing what some of them can do. It's high level shit. Like to actually pull it off, you've got to be able to do really, really well. Anyway, the point
so you're quite skilled. So it's more like, I don't know, something like for the stage.
No, it's for girls in real life.
Or for film.
Next time we go to a pub, I'll show you what girls are contoured.
Right. Okay.
There's a look on the face that they have, and they won't move. They won't laugh much because they don't want to break it. They won't move. They won't be very expressionate because they want to try and keep that face nice and still.
I'm just making me stressed just thinking about it,
dude. I mean, like next time we go to the gym, we'll look at how many girls have had their lips filled, and I'm talking about. Some in that one in Neston, there's chicks in there. They look about 18, 19 years old, and they've got like their lips pulled and bloated, like they've just been sucking on a vacuum cleaner,
like Daffy Duck.
Like Daffy Duck. And I'm like, did that hurt? Because it looks sore as shit. I've only ever had a lip like that once in my life, and it was some Greek guy who'd been punching me in the face repeatedly during some drunken brawl. And I ended up with lips that look like that. These big puffy. Anyway, what my ex was saying to me is that, like, the girls are investing so much time and effort into the made-up face, into the false face, into the virtual face, that if you say, I prefer your real face to your fake face, they are authentically offended. Because you just dissed the virtual face. You dissed my mask, and my mask is me. That's why I claim that we're becoming more psychopathic. It's like a soft psychopathy. It's not about murdering people and stealing their savings. It's more about investing in that which is false.
So do psychopaths, is that how they do what they do and not feel any guilt? Because they're saying that was me that did that, but not actually meaning me.
Yeah. There's kind of like a it's commonly reported. I was actually watching Hannibal, the series. Have you watched that?
No.
It's actually pretty good. It's really gross and gory, unfortunately, but it's beautifully shot, and most of the psychology in it is pretty on point. But they're discussing serial killers a lot. But yes, in order for a serial killer to be a serial killer, they have to have a fantasy. There's no such thing as a serial killer with no fantasy. So they have a fantasy of who they are, of what they're doing, and of who the victims are. And the fantasy the virtual takes over the reality.
So when we've been caught and being interviewed, they don't try and what's the word? They don't try and explain why they did it. They just say it happened, but it was Dr. Moriarty that was doing it.
Well, the probably the easiest and best way to sort of
not justifying. Sorry.
No. They won't. There is no sincere communication with them. So if whatever is coming out of their mouth at that moment in time is to fulfill an agenda. So if they give you a full confession to all their crimes, that's because they're fulfilling one agenda. If they fucking say, it wasn't me, I didn't kill that girl, I can't give you the location of the remains so that she can be buried and so that her family can have some peace because I didn't do that thing, whatever, that'll be for an agenda. It's a totally agendaed communication style with no sincerity. And the reason there is no sincerity and no authenticity is because there's no self. There isn't an authentic self
I
in
am
there.
following, yeah.
But then it's quite hard. There's
a lot of thinking in that, though. They have to sit there for weeks and months working out what they're going to do.
Do you mean for serial killers?
Well, no, for serial killers, but thinking about now for what you were saying about the memory thing. Mm. So I book a holiday next year, but I'm stressed about going on the holiday because I've got to fulfill these certain memory needs. So I'm going to be stressed about going on holiday.
Well, I don't.
In case I can fulfill the.
Some people would be stressed. Some people will just look forward to it. But what bothers me is whether you're stressed or looking forward to it. Is you're looking forward to the after effect of the holiday. You're not looking forward to the first person experience. What that guy said, and he's the head of his young family, Malcolm going to Cornwall, is we're looking forward to building some new memories. And I'm like, why don't you just look forward to living, you daft twat?
You big daft twat.
Why don't you just look forward to being in the present moment with your children as they grow up, with your phone left in your car, and just be a human, just be a person. Why have you got to already be planning the Facebook album and how it's going to look and how people are going to respond to it? That's, I sound angry a lot of the time, but my anger is only there to mask my sadness. I feel so sad. It's sad that guy is thinking that way.
Yeah, and it's a pressure as well, isn't it, I suppose?
It's pressure. Now, that's beyond pressure. That is a human being who's collapsed under the pressure. That, to me, is you've collapsed. You've totally fucking collapsed.
You've gone to the other side.
There was a girl I used to hang around with in Malaysia. There was nothing going on between us, but we went to Cambodia together to do a 10K run around the Bayon temples. And in the end, I started making excuses I just lied my ass off to not hang around with her because she kept on taking pictures of everything.
Right.
All the time. And she wanted to do like weird setup pictures. There was this thing she wanted to do where I was holding her hand. So I'm the one taking the photo. So you can see a man's hand in the photo.
Yeah.
And her holding my hand looking back at the camera. And she wanted to do loads of those pictures. And I was like, what are you doing? Who's this for? You're not here with your boyfriend. You're here with your mate. Who are you trying to fucking fool? Oy, oy, oy. Anyway, so yeah, that's my worry, is that people then it's invaded human consciousness and it's invaded the human unconscious to the point where yes, there's this huge pressure to enjoy, but it's only to enjoy virtually. It's only to enjoy by proxy.
I mean, I do think it's evolved since I first read about superego injunction to enjoy, because when it first came up, when I was first reading it, it was more to do with it was more to do with a counterbalance of Zizek to Pinkner, because Pinkner said he equated civilized society with non-violent society.
Okay.
And what Zizek did was said no, but the two don't match necessarily. Right. But what he said, we're getting into an even more violent society because of a superego injunction to enjoy, because you're pushed to enjoy constantly. That you get that enjoyment gets more extreme. But now you add in social media, I suppose. It sort of reverts the psychopathy.
Reverses it or reverts it?
Reverts it. So you're not necessarily getting more violent to enjoy, but you are getting more of the dimensions have changed, so it's affecting people's psychology more than necessarily you going out, and you can't enjoy anything, so you become so you have to commit some sort of act of violence to feel some type of enjoyment. So what we're saying now is that rather than it necessarily being a byproduct of creating more violent society, or creating more extreme ways of life, but actually it's just causing people loads of psychological pain.
Yeah, it does cause people psychological pain, and no, they won't go out and start beating people up. We'll see less of that. The reason we'll see less of that is because people's enjoyment is now reconnected in their brain, I claim. I can't back this is just my idea, through passive enjoyment. Do you feel me?
Are we still on the I'm creating future memory?
No, we're moved past I'm creating future memory now. We're talking about violence and whether people will actually go out and beat somebody up because they need more stimulation.
Yeah, stimulation, yeah.
So that's what would have happened in Anthony Burgess's book, A Clockwork Orange. Eventually, the point, like one of them, it's a good book. One of the many points it makes is like this main character, he's going out and beating people up and raping people as an expression of joy.
Yeah.
And the main song, or one of the main songs that he enjoys, is the Ode to Joy. When you watch the Stanley Kubrick film, it's the Ode to Joy that plays throughout the whole film.
Right, okay.
And it's about the sadistic joy of beating the fuck out of somebody.
Yeah.
Now that can't happen to us because we're too passive.
Yeah.
So enjoyment. So let me see if I can explain. It's a weird point to make, but I think it's an important one. So enjoyment can either be done with you as the active participant, where you're making it happen, where you're playing tennis yourself, or you're having sex yourself, or whatever, climbing the mountain yourself, or passively you're just watching that happen. We are becoming, our enjoyment circuitry, the enjoyment chamber, is now becoming more and more connected to passive protocols.
Okay.
I've noticed this as a single man in the last 10 years engaging in sexual congress. Though people are watching more porn and they're more permissive and they're more aware of what sexual options are open to them, they're worse at sex. So imagine, let me be a little bit crude just for a moment. Imagine vulgar. I shall be vulgar. You're a 25-year-old girl. You started watching porn at age 16. The majority, I use a girl instead of a boy just for the sake of changing up the example that is typically given. Most of the orgasms that you've experienced in your life and most of the sexual pleasure that you've experienced in your life up until that date, between the ages of 16 and 25, has been on your back with a laptop on your knee. So when you actually come to have sex with a human being who is there, your whole sexual framework is not, this is something we do together. It's something that I passively enjoy.
Yeah.
And I can't really come unless I'm on my back now. I can't really come unless I'm just kind of sat here looking at something, having certain specific sensations run through my body. I'm only half joking with that. Like I've seen that. I've seen like I've noticed like I get hold of some girls and they would have been they've had sexual experiences, they've been with other people before, and I'm like, but you don't actually know how to do anything, do you, my love?
My love.
You are willing and, shall we say capable, but not skilled, as it were. You need to upskill. How I shall upskill you. But there really, like, sincerely, there is this. I've genuinely noticed that, like, a kind of just passivity, just kind of like this is an experience that I receive passively rather than something that we're doing at the same time.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Makes sense to me.
We are running out of time, young William.
And I'm desperate for the toilet.
Will you enjoy going?
I will.
It'll be the release of pressure.
Will.
We shall end on that note. Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Go on, William.